Hello and welcome to a special Car Dealer Live. Today we are reporting on a major story. Lookers, the listed UK dealer group, has been bought by the Canadian firm Alpha Auto Group. Now we're joined by UHY Hacker Young's David Kendrick. I'll come to you in a second, David, but James Baggott, he was up very early this morning and covering this story, joins me first. Now, James, tell us more about this story.
Yeah, good morning, Batch. We'll run through some of these details. So, let's just clarify, they haven't actually been bought yet, but they have had an offer from a privately owned Canadian car dealer group called Alpha Auto Group. They're based in Toronto, and this morning they made an official offer of 120 pence per share. Yesterday, Lookers' share price closed at 88.7. It's rocketed this morning, as I'm sure you can imagine, to 118.6. Now, Alpha Auto Group's a Canadian business. They were launched only 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago in 2014. They've got, from what we understand, just 22 sites in the US and Canada. They represent a few different manufacturers over there. I spoke to their PR firm this morning because we were obviously looking, weren't we, for some financial details about Alpha Auto Group. Couldn't find much, but they told me that AAG turned over $1 billion in 2022 from those 22 sites, generated EBITDA profits of circa $100 million. So Lookers told the stock market this morning that they have agreed this all-cash offer and they're recommending it to shareholders. They say the deal is expected to be concluded in late Q3 or 4 of this year. The bidding company is called Global Auto Holdings Limited, and it's going to be used for this purchase. They said that they believe the deal was an attractive opportunity to enter the UK market. You'll remember Constellation Automotive Group, the owners of Cinch, We Buy Any Car, and Marshall Motor Group, bought a 20% share in Lookers. And as part of this deal, they've given irrevocable undertakings to sell their shares as part of this, which means that AAG has now got 42.1% of the shareholders of Lookers, including the directors, saying that they'll give this deal the nod. They needed 30% to make an offer for the whole company, which they've obviously got with those 42%. So Lookers directors, who were being advised by Numis and Peel Hunt, said that they considered the terms of the offer to be fair and reasonable. I know you've been looking into AAG this morning, haven't you? I mean, actually, we don't know much about this business. They seemed, on the face of it, a relatively small car dealer group, but it just shows you that how attractive these listed UK dealer groups are. There's been talk about Lookers for some time. Virtue and Pendragon are still out there, probably sitting ducks now as a result of this. But a very, very interesting move, and one that looks very likely to go ahead.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, AAG, in comparison to Lookers, seems a very small company, very profitable, but they've only got a small number of sites. Lookers, of course, have got over 150 dealers or 150 showrooms in the UK. I mean, this gives AAG an enormous scope internationally, but of course in the UK as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're saying this is going to be a much bigger combined group. Lookers' annual results for 2022, which we reported on in April, showed that they generated revenue of 4.3 billion, pre-tax profit of 82.7 million pounds for last year. So they've got a robust balance sheet, say Lookers. Their net cash at that time of 66.5 million and a property portfolio of 290 million pounds. So actually, this looks like a bit of a deal for this Canadian Auto Group. There's Sanjay Vidyathi, the Liberum analyst, has sent out a note this morning saying he actually thinks Lookers have sold a little bit too cheaply. He had a target price of 150 pence for the shares at Lookers, and this Canadian group has snapped it up at 120. So it's probably best to get some opinion from our expert rather than me.
Yeah, well, let's turn to David Kendrick then, CEO of the deal-making accountancy firm UHY Hacker Young. David, I mean, we've got loads to ask you, but first of all, were you surprised by this?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say it's probably not surprising that one of the UK PLCs has had a takeover bid. I was a little bit more surprised as to who it was. There's been various rumours, are Constellation going to try and take out Lookers, etc., etc. There's been some approaches from the likes of your Headins. Obviously, Lithia have come in with the acquisition of Jardine. So it was more surprise of the kind of the potential acquirer that's made the offer, as opposed to the fact that someone has actually made an approach.
Yeah, and I mean, do you think this could be the start of more international firms coming in and swooping up UK listed PLCs? Because we've spoken before, haven't we, about this, that there is a feeling that UK PLCs are sort of materially undervalued at the moment.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I think it might have been James Batchelor on one of the podcasts I listened to said by the end of the year he predicts there'll be no PLCs left in the motor trade, and perhaps he's going to be right. They look exceptional value. I mean, obviously we don't know the full details behind everything, but roughly speaking, if you look at the value that's potentially being attributed to this share offer, and then you look at the kind of the balance sheet of Lookers, I think their net asset position, looking at the balance sheet at the end of 22, which I appreciate is kind of 6 months out of date, so there'll be a little bit of an improvement to that, assuming they've made money, but it was sat at 430 million. Within that, you've got a goodwill value of circa 80 million within there, which obviously you wouldn't pay for goodwill twice typically, so that would normally be deducted out. And then you've got this huge property portfolio, which I'm of the impression, and I'm not certain, but I believe that has not been valued in recent times. And from some previous discussions we've had with some internationals who've been looking at different opportunities, which Lookers may have been one, there was quite a substantial upside within that. So you could argue actually that you mentioned the target price of 150 before. Even at that, you would still be looking at quite a substantial discount to net assets, which for a business that's got a huge footprint in the UK, a very strong infrastructure, strong management team, for the right buyer, it could be fantastic. Now, there's going to be some hurdles to get through, aren't there? There's going to be OEM approval, there's going to be FCA approval, there's going to be a lot of hard work to get the deal done. But Lookers had some challenges in the last kind of few years, as we know, but it seems that they're out the other side of that. The business is in a much better place. It's been stabilized. The financial performance has been a lot stronger. They've tidied up some of the brands that they didn't want to work with moving forward. So actually, yeah, it looks phenomenal value, if you ask me.
Yeah, I was going to say, David, I mean, it does look incredible value when you look at those sorts of numbers. Do you think this now means that the likes of Virtue and Pendragon are, as I said, sitting ducks? Do you think they're going to be next in very short order?
I think they've got to be. They've got to be attractive, haven't they? And sometimes what you find in the transaction market is when one happens, a few happen in quick succession because it brings it to the attention of other people. Obviously, Headin had a good look at Pendragon, didn't they? Although they didn't conclude the transaction. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to watch. I'm sure there's lots and lots of people speculating and looking at those shares and thinking, should I buy them and see what happens? But until the multiples improve for these businesses, they've got to be looked at as great value, because the profits they make, the asset base that they've got, and the kind of the management quality within these businesses, it just doesn't compare to other markets that are trading at 6, 8, 10 times multiples when we're stuck at between 3 and 4 in the main.
Fantastic. Well, some really interesting stuff there, David. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem at all. Always good to chat.
Well, that's it for this very special Car Dealer Live. For the very latest news, make sure you head over to cardealermagazine.co.uk. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.